Hi. Well, hi. As always, I am your host, Grant Ingram, and joining me today, it is my half-blood friend, Grant Skillen. How are you doing, Grant?
I'm doing good. Just so you know, you cut out during that intro, so we couldn't hear what you said up to the intro playing, but it's all good.
Oh, great. That is fantastic. Yeah, it was acting weird. It wouldn't actually play the intro, but that's fine because I
Yeah, it was
screwed
like you
up.
froze because I could even see your face at the bottom was just frozen, but
Oh, fun. Hopefully that
it
doesn't
is
happen
it is
again.
what it is. But
Yeah. So today we are talking about Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief from 2010, or as I like to call it, Percy Jackson, the Pearl Finder. And then we're going to talk about Sea of Monsters from 2013 as well. Grant, are you a Percy Jackson fan like you are a Harry Potter fan?
I'm not as much of a Percy Jackson fan. I read both of these books for sure when I was younger. So watching it, some of the different stuff came back, but I am a fan, not as much of a fan as I was of Harry Potter though.
Okay. So you know as well as I do that these deviate from the books pretty heavily.
From my brief or little bit of recollection of the books, yes.
Okay.
You probably would know that better than me, but
We'll talk about it because the first one doesn't deserve to be called the Lightning Thief. Um, I can't speak to Sea of Monsters as much. It's been a while, but yeah. So for those of you watching, I fully intended to watch both movies, but being a lazy podcast co-host whose baseball games got moved up a day, it didn't happen. So I watched the first one. I have thoughts. Grant's going to fill me in on the second one. I'm sure I'll have thoughts.
yeah.
This is the second set of films in our cycle. This is our young adult book to movie cycle. We talked about Harry Potter last week. Go check that out. Next week, we will be talking about something fun. I believe we said it was either a series of unfortunate events or Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I think we said it was going to be Miss Peregrine's Home. After that, it'll be a series of unfortunate events. Yeah, so this is our young adult stuff. We're staying away from the Hunger Games. Those get their own thing later. We got a cool cycle coming next week, or not next week, next month. And yeah, thanks for tuning in and watching this. Be sure to check out all the other cultured nerd stuff as well. But let's go ahead and jump into it. Grant, what did you think of these movies?
They weren't great. The first movie was definitely the better movie, but that's not saying a whole lot. Like on IMDb, at least the first movie is like a 6.6, and then I think the other's like a 5.9. Like they're not very highly rated, and honestly, I think that's fair. I
Yeah,
think the movies could have been a lot better.
the source material is definitely there. Like it has the Harry Potter like world building. It has the coolness. My problem with it as a Percy Jackson fan, like I've never read Harry Potter, but I've read all of the Percy Jackson books twice. I've read the Heroes of Olympus series. I've read most of Trials of Apollo. I've read Magnus Chase. Like I grew up a Rick Riordan fan. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. I really hope it is because he signed one of my books, and I'm proud of that. Anyway, yeah, I grew up a fan of his, and this just isn't that. Like he once said, I don't have the interview in front of me, but once he read the script, he decided he wasn't going to watch the movie, and he just never watched the movie. That's how much of this isn't his book at all. There's a reason they're remaking it on Disney Plus, starring, I believe, the kid from the Adam Project, whose name I am just completely blanking on. Lin-Manuel Miranda's in it, and then Lance Reddick.
Jenna Ortega or someone else?
What?
Never mind. Don't worry about it.
It's not Jenna Ortega. It's a different
Okay.
person. It's the kid from the Adam Project.
Okay.
I forget his name.
I
But then also Lance Reddick's in it as Zeus. That'll be cool. Rest in peace, Lance Reddick. I don't really know what they're going to do with that. I'm very curious because the show hasn't started yet, and I wonder if they're going to reshoot it. But yeah. Anyway, we're talking about these movies. They're not Percy Jackson. Like I'm sorry to ruin it for you. They're just not. But they are. I thought the first one was okay. It was
Yeah, the first
weird.
one. Yeah, the first one's like this isn't like it's not a terrible movie. I wouldn't describe it as a good movie. It's all right.
It's a movie. Like it's certainly a movie I would watch. It's better than Farce of the Penguins.
Oh yeah, that's not even close.
Well, that's the second one starts to get a little closer.
Yeah, second one's closer.
So let's look at the cast real quick. We've got Logan Lerman as Percy. We've got Brandon T. Jackson, who's also known for Tropic Thunder. He was Al Pacino in that one. He's Grover Underwood here. We've got Alexandria Daddario as the movie. She played Annabeth Chase and was the movie. Then Jake Abel as Luke Castellan, Sean Bean as Zeus, who miraculously didn't die. Kevin McKidd as Poseidon, Steve Coogan as Hades, Melina Kenakarides as Athena. I'm proud of myself for getting through that name. I'm sorry. Rosario Dawson, who you might recognize as everyone's second favorite Ahsoka. She's Persephone. Dylan Neal as Hermes. Erica Serra as Hera. Sorry, that's entertaining.
Say that 10 times fast.
Erica Serra as Hera. Erica Serra as Hera.
Okay, you don't have to.
I'm going to because it's entertaining. Stephanie Von Fetton as Demeter. Dimitri Lekos as Apollo. Anna Grauer as Artemis. Serinda Swan as Aphrodite, and that checks. Conrad Coates as Hephaestus, also checks. Ray Winstone as Ares. Luke Camarelli as Dionysus. Uma Thurman as Medusa. Pierce Brosnan as Chiron and Mr. Brunner. Maria Olsen as Mrs. Dodds. Julian Richings as Karen or Sharon. I forget how they pronounce
Karen.
it. I've heard it pronounced both ways. Catherine Keener as Sally Jackson, the unfortunate plot point of the movie, and Joe Pantoliano, who is one of my all-time favorite actors, as Gabe Ugliano.
So he's the drunk stepdad.
Yes. Who is very underplayed in this movie, I will say. Like, he was a much bigger part of the book. Of course, this movie is not the book.
Loosely, very, very loosely based off of the book. There's some of the same characters.
Well, I would argue they're not the same characters. They have the same names.
Yeah.
Like, for example, this movie, like, the kids were 12 in the books. They're 14 in the movie. Doesn't sound like a big deal until you realize that the whole point of Luke's character, and I'm going to get into spoilers here, the whole point of Luke's character and his ultimate betrayal was that he was like the father figure, the older brother figure looked up to by the entire camp. Everybody loved Luke. So instead of being a gamer hidden in his little hut, he was in the house taking care of the younger children of Hermes.
So instead of being Grant, he was not Grant.
Right. But he was taking care of the younger children of Hermes. And he wasn't quite as ticked off at the gods, or at least didn't show it. So when you age everybody up and you can't obviously distinguish Luke from Percy and Annabeth and Grover, you lose that. So you kill a plot point that they end up trying to pay off, and it just doesn't work. Or at least in my opinion didn't, and I would imagine my opinion is correct because I said it. But I will say I'm okay with Alexandria Daddario as Annabeth. They changed the way Annabeth looked for the better. Like Annabeth in the book, blonde hair, blue eyes, or not blonde hair, blue eyes, blonde hair, gray eyes, like piercing gray eyes is how they're described. Instead, we've got like absolutely gorgeous blue eyes. Like, gosh, like if you could get more blue. No, like they completely changed the way a lot of the characters act and function. Grover went from being like very awkward to very like he's the man. Like Grover's the dude.
I did enjoy him though. Like he was like a good part of the movie for sure.
Oh, for sure. And he's a fantastic character, but he's not Grover.
Mhm.
It'd be like
Yeah.
if I took Luke Skywalker, everyone's favorite hero from the first 3 Star Wars movies.
It made him not whiny and annoying.
No. And said, you know what? He hates the Jedi. He's going to throw away some lightsabers and try to burn a book. I'm sorry. I just described episode 8, but that's what
Your favorite movie.
this is. Episode 8 is not my favorite movie, but this is the episode 8 of Percy Jackson. It's that. It's all of the characters are technically there.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, it's not Percy Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Grant, you know a little bit less about the books than I do, so I want your opinion on the movie, and then we'll start talking plot a little bit. Like I want you to kind of weave me through what you thought of everything. Let me take a sip of my ghost.
I mean, it's all right. I mean, they go on the quest to try to get down into hell, essentially, or Hades, whatever they call it, to try to get Percy's mom out, and also to try to convince Hades that he isn't the one that stole Zeus's lightning bolt.
Mm-hmm.
That is essentially the entire plot of the movie, is that in the steps to get there. So you've got Percy, Annabeth, and Grover going on like a countrywide trip, going from wherever the heck the camp's at. I don't
New
remember
York.
to going from New York to, was it New York for the first one?
It was New York to New Jersey to Nashville.
Yeah, to Nashville,
Nevada.
to Vegas, to LA. To Hollywood.
Right. So best I remember in the book, they didn't go to Nashville. Because if you're mapping a trip from New York to LA,
Mm-hmm.
Nashville's like the last place you're trying to go.
Well, yeah, but they just have to hit 3 different points. So like, okay, where's the next one we're going to? We're going from New Jersey. We're going to New Jersey. Then we're going to Nashville. Then we're going here. It wasn't like that's what they had wanted to do.
Have you ever been to the Parthenon in Nashville?
I have not.
It is really cool. I've been a couple of times. Last time I went, there was some cool jazz music. I was in the same restroom stall that Daddario stepped out of, and I didn't realize that was cool. I'm kidding. That's a joke. For legal reasons, that's a joke. But it's a very cool. The giant statue of Athena is awesome. Like it really is. It's completely unnecessary in this movie. Like just completely.
Yeah. You might as well just had it there on like a gold platter for him to grab it off of and then get attacked by a Hydra.
Yeah, and like why? See, I have a lot of problems. I don't know how much of the book you remember, but the book, the entire point of the quest was not to go save Percy's mom and convince the devil that you were a good person. The entire point of Percy's quest was to go get the lightning from the person who had stolen. And I don't remember which god it was that had stolen it. I can't honestly remember. But it was not this. The pearls were not a thing that mattered. They were given to Percy by Poseidon, best I remember. And I believe that Hades gave Percy's mom back just kind of out of generosity. Like as an oops, my bad. Didn't mean to abduct your mother. One of those kinds of things.
Oops, my bee.
Also, like Percy's Mary Sue Skywalker here. Like
he is, yeah.
Like we find out he's a half-blood. He immediately knows who his dad is. And then all of a sudden he's just Mr. Man. Like it finds out he's a half-blood on Wednesday. By Thursday, he was healing wounds with water and making out with Alexandria Daddario. Which, I mean, pretty cool. But also, my gosh, that was fast.
Yeah. And it's like he didn't even have any time to really train. He's like, I got healed by Poseidon. Now let me just go, like, destroy these people with a sword. Like, where did that come from?
Let me step in a puddle and you're not going to be able to kill me.
Yeah.
The puddle was his well of radiance, and he's just sitting there as a hunter with a falling guillotine. To make a Destiny reference. Destiny has lightning. It works.
Yeah.
Yeah. This movie just isn't Like you can tell they really wanted it to be. They're like, how can we use all of the same story beats without using the story? All right, we're gonna have him fight Medusa. He fought Medusa in the book, right? Yeah, we're gonna have him fight Medusa. Well, was he just kind of there because he was hungry? No. He went there specifically, and they just didn't tell him that, like, oh, you're gonna face Medusa.
By the way, there's might be someone you got to look out for.
Oh, yeah. Which, by the way, again, completely undercuts the idea that Luke is on your side ever. Like, I think they literally explained away. Oh, maybe he forgot. I think that was the explanation.
Oh, maybe he forgot about the crazy snake lady.
No, I mean, she just looks like Uma Thurman with some snakes on her head. Like, I will say the Medusa design was very
why.
cool.
Yeah.
And then they carried around her head for the rest of the day. That was a little weird.
Yeah. Then they were in the hotel room, and Grover just goes, is just holding the head by a couple snakes, and the cleaning lady walks by. They're like, well, we got to go.
Before Homeland Security shows up.
Yep.
Because that's what happens when you hold up a head in Nashville. Homeland Security. This is a national security issue. Yeah. Then we end up in Vegas. And Vegas, we get the fantastic clip of Grover dancing. I wish I had that downloaded.
Which is hilarious because he was just like, he just had his legs out dancing. It's like, I think like no one mentioned anything. I mean, I guess that's kind of the whole point is you're just in a daze there, but like you might think, that guy's got goat legs.
Yeah, well, see, the thing is, I don't understand how nobody recognized that he had goat legs anyway, because his knees bend backwards.
And this was the other thing I thought of, like they're in that casino, and it's Percy Jackson, this guy that's been on the news for like a week at this point, of like he and his mom just disappeared. I get they're all like in the daze, but like no one along the way recognized them. Like he's just walking around with a hat on. Like that's not, or a beanie, whatever it was. That's not gonna like, oh, that's not him. Sorry, he's got a beanie on.
It's the Marvel movie disguise. Hey, they put on a hat, nobody can recognize him. No, I don't remember if they explained it here, but that is like it's not just a trance, like it's not a drug trance, like it's a mythological. In the book, I think it's Hades that has like created this. I don't remember exactly.
I think it. I don't think it was Hades in the movie.
I don't remember. I just know that it was stupid. Like Grover sitting there dancing to Poker Face, which, by the way, that is a good reason not to play that clip because it's a double copyright strike, and we don't need that. Go look it up for yourself. But yeah, it was just weird. And again, like I know he was like on crutches and everything at the school when we first started out. Which, by the way, we didn't know Grover very long before Grover was the freaking dude. But how did anybody not notice that his knees bend backwards? This kid's a cripple. Looks like he's got goat knees.
Maybe they saw him like, oh, that's why he's got crutches, because he can't walk properly because his knees bend backwards.
His knees bend backwards. Like his legs are just shaped weird. And it's like I don't care how baggy your sweatpants are. Ain't nobody missing your knees bend backwards. Yeah. I have problems. Anyway, from there, we get our last pearl, and we end up just going to the underworld, which is fantastically in Hollywood. Who'd have thunk it?
Fitting, honestly.
Yeah, considering Hollywood made this movie, and it is worthy of the depths of hell. Nah. So we find the lightning bolt hidden in that shield that Luke gave away.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Ironic. Yeah, that's really interesting because like you think like, oh, I'm just gonna stick the bolt in this shield and give it to this new kid that just showed up 2 days ago who's Mary Sue Skywalker and is like, "Oh, I'll trust him to get this, like, to Hades." It's like, "What?"
Well, see, the thing about it was that they were trying to set Percy up, right?
Yeah, but I think Luke was just trying to get the bolt to Hades so Hades could try to take over Olympus. You know?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I will say it's very interesting. I don't love that the whole plot of this movie was you have 14 days to figure out who stole the lightning bolt. So let's go save my mom.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we know the Death Star is going to blow up freaking Yavin tomorrow.
We just need to make sure they know I'm not part of it.
Yeah, no, not even they just need to, we need to make sure I know I'm not part of it or they know I'm not part of it. They're going to blow up Yavin tomorrow. You want to go help Yoda make a sandwich?
Do you want to go try to get a meeting with Palpatine?
About a completely unrelated thing.
Hey,
I need to meet with him. I
Palpatine,
have a
just so you
parking
know,
ticket.
Palpatine, I'm not your son.
Yeah. not I'm not your son. Hey, Palpatine, I've got an unpaid parking ticket that like is gonna double in price tomorrow. It wasn't my car. Can you help a brother out, Palps?
Yeah.
Also, please
The other
don't
thing
blow
that
up
was
Yavin.
funny. Yeah. The other thing that was funny in the movie though is they're like, "Oh, let's go rescue my mom. Let's go get these 3 pearls for the 4 of us to get out of here." Then they get there. Oh wait, there's 4 of us.
Well, no dip, detective.
Yeah. It's like that was I just had a stroke.
Dude, I was sitting there thinking about that the first time they mentioned there were 3 pearls. I'm like, wait a second. This doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Remind
then
me how Grover got out, by the way, because Grover gets left behind because he's just the man. And
Grover gets out. Zeus as a favor gets him out.
Okay, because I know he was Persephone's love interest in here. I can't remember a lot. I honestly watched it yesterday. It's been a long couple of days.
A long day.
Yeah.
So at the end, once he returns the lightning bolt, he's like, "Hey, I've got a friend who's in Hades. Can you get him out?" He's like, "Fine," basically. And then they meet. The Wikipedia article just says they return the lightning bolt to Zeus, reconciles with his father, having been reunited with Grover. It just Wikipedia.
Yeah, that's what I was confused by. I'm like, surely Wikipedia will tell me. Oh, he's just there. He walked out of hell, said, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's really all there is to talk about the movie. It's all right. Like, it's the better of the two, but that's not saying a whole lot.
Yeah, it's just such a weird idea. Hey, guys, we're going to buy the movie rights. What are we making the movie based off of? Well, Gary over here had this Pearl idea. Well, we bought the rights to this book. Well, we're going to use those characters, but we're going to go with Gary's Pearls.
Yeah.
No.
Exactly.
Casting swine before pearls. Yeah, it's just so... It's not bad. If you don't know anything about the book, it's okay.
It's all right. Yeah. It's a movie.
It's a movie. I've seen worse. I've seen better.
That's what she said.
I've seen worse. I've seen better. And it really, I don't know. We rolled into the second one because we were never going to give you up. But all right, I got power hungry. I have clips. But the second one is not good.
Yeah. So the second one is called Percy Jackson, Sea of Monsters. Where the heck they got that name from, I couldn't tell you.
They just literally ripped the names off the books.
Yeah, but it's not like it even is faithful to the book. Like,
oh well, no, I wouldn't have called the first one the Lightning Thief.
Yeah, like I don't like they call it Sea of Monsters. There's like, is there even a monster that comes from the sea in the entire movie?
Is it
Unless you're gonna call the monster his half brother who's got
that
the one
was
eye.
yeah, the Cyclops was the idea. Um
But like he's a good guy. Like I
I
don't know. So essentially the story of this one starts with talking about the story of Talia Grace, who was coming to the camp at the same time as Annabeth, Luke, and Grover. And they were being pursued by monsters, and she kind of stopped and like tried to fight them off the best she could, so her friends get into camp, and she died. And she was a whatchamacallit. It's not a half blood. Is it a half blood again?
demigod.
Demigod. Yeah, that's
There
it.
are half bloods. It's Camp Half Blood, but they're
Yeah.
demigods. Take a
Yeah. So
pick.
she was a demigod, but she was the daughter of Zeus. And so Zeus honored her sacrifice by turning her into a tree and creating a protective area around the camp. So that's like why like anyone who's not a demigod can't get in the camp
And
because of her sacrifice.
that's the book. That fits.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
will say it is a little weird to me that it was not safe beforehand, but that's a gripe again. It's the book. Like it is.
Yeah.
It's what you paid to see.
Yeah. So then there's a time jump. I don't remember it saying how big the time jump is. Wikipedia just says in the present day. So Wikipedia back at it again with helpful tips.
I think it would be so. Annabeth got there when she was 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be. Let's just say everybody ages correctly, even though that's really weird. 17, so 12 years.
Yeah. I was saying a time jump from the first movie.
Oh,
that
3 years. Let's call it.
Okay. We'll call it 3. So at that point, it's been a couple of years since Percy's quest for Zeus's bolt, which wasn't that's how it's described in the Wikipedia article. Even that's not what it was.
No,
that's not even what it was.
Also, Annabeth looks different. If we're being honest here, like this movie is like they're just like, you know what, we're not gonna stick with it.
Yeah.
We cast the actress with the biggest blue eyes in Hollywood, but the fans thought they should be gray because in the book they were gray. And you know what? That's our bad guys. We're not going to recast. We're just going to change the color of her eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the worst of both worlds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. So at this point, the like camp bully, how it's described in the article, or just like the big dog at camp, is a girl named Clarice Leroux, who is a demigod. This Wikipedia back at it again doesn't say who her
Ares.
Ares, yeah, that's it.
She was a book character. Stupid. Weirdly enough, she was a big part of the first book. So in the first book, there's a lot more time at Camp Half-Blood. Like,
or there's none here.
Well, yeah. It's literally he spent a day and he's like, I'm gone. I'm out of here. No, there was a lot more time in the first book. I want to say it was like a couple of weeks before we even found out that Zeus's bolt was missing. Like, yeah. Anyway, keep rolling.
So quick overview of just the entire story is they get attacked by a cultist bull who got through because of Luke, who is still alive, even though it seemed like he died at the end of the movie.
Because he died in the book. I'm sorry.
The line in the movie is before you try to drown someone, you should make sure they can't swim. Yeah.
Maybe he just forgot to tell us Medusa was there. Percy.
But then after they get attacked by the bull, they discover that Talia's tree was poisoned by Luke and that the barrier is vulnerable. I just combined Percy and Oracle. Percy consults the Oracle where there's a prophecy of a half-blood of the eldest god, so Zeus, Poseidon, or Hades, who will either save or destroy Olympus. Chiron tells Percy that he's the only living human half-blood of the eldest gods, so the prophecy may refer to him. But they also find out a little bit earlier there's a really good guy with one eye named Tyson, who is the half brother of Percy.
He's like, I can see you.
Yeah, not very clearly, but he can.
He can't tell. He can't tell how far
Yeah.
away you are, but he can see you. He'll bite your ear
Mhm.
off. Sorry, I do a very
Yeah.
bad Mike Tyson impression.
Yeah. Then Annabeth and Grover learn about the Golden Fleece, which has the power to heal anything, and they propose a quest to retrieve the fleece and use it to heal the tree. The counselor says it's a terrible idea and then claims it as his own idea, and then doesn't choose them at all, chooses a um different half goat.
A different satyr
Yes, that would be the word.
or
Chooses a
sadist,
different
if you will.
satyr. Yeah. And chooses Clarice to lead the quest.
Correct.
Um So then Percy and Annabeth are like, "See ya, we're going to."
River Nurture.
Um,
Bye.
because Percy's essentially like, if it's gonna be saved or destroyed, it sounds like it's gotta be me, so I'm gonna go anyways." Um,
Well, because Clarice has already called him a one quest wonder, which
yeah,
I will say this entire movie franchise would have been better if Percy really had been a one quest wonder.
yeah,
Like if it was just, hey, I'm gonna go save my mom and screw off. Better
mhm,
franchise.
yeah. So then they take off in a New York City cab, otherwise known as the Chariot of Damnation, where there's 3 blind drivers, and they tell Percy more about the prophecy and give him coordinates for the Sea of Monsters, the Bermuda Triangle. Um
Who'd have guessed it?
Yeah, they get kicked out in DC because they were out of cash. Grover gets kidnapped. Then, with the help of Hermes, they track down Luke's yacht, the Andromeda. Um, Hold on, I'm trying to figure out how to pronounce this word. I'm not going to pronounce that. Um, they ride a mythical being over to the yacht. Um, Not attempting to say that. Once they get on there, Luke reveals his plan to revive Kronos, to destroy Olympus, using the fleece, and then locks the group in the brig. Um, but Percy uses his ability to manipulate water to break them free. Once they escape, they find a big monster, or they get consumed by a big monster, where they find out Clarice has also been consumed by said monster. Then they shoot a hole through its gut and get out, and then chart a course to Florida, where they find Polyphemus's lair, who has the fleece. Um, and they find out Grover's there. But Grover is there pretending to be a cyclops so he doesn't get eaten. So he's wearing a dress with a googly eye taped to the middle of his forehead and keeps his eyes closed because the guy's got terrible vision. So to him, it looks like he's like a female cyclops maid, basically.
Checks out. By the way, I will
Yeah.
say I am wrong. Luke survived the first book in the books
Hmm.
and actually survived a heck of a long time.
Did she survive the second book?
Yeah, he was the main villain in The Last Olympian. And I thought I remembered that, but yeah.
Yeah. Luke is presumably killed at the end of this, although they're probably setting up. I mean, they're clearly setting up another movie at the end of this one with the way it ends. Like
Well, they
they're
did
setting up
adapt.
more, but
They more or less adapted a 5 book series into yeah. The movie made money. I don't know why they didn't make another one,
yeah, it made money. Like it may not have made a ton of money, but it still made money.
which is pretty good for a movie that absolutely sucked.
Yeah.
And the more I'm looking, the more I see that they actually kind of adapted the book with this one. Sorry, I don't mean to keep cutting you off,
Potentially.
but it's
Yeah.
very similar. Even though I feel like they screwed it up enough to where it isn't anymore.
Yeah.
At the very least, they tried.
Yeah.
And
They tried. It's still just not a great movie though.
they, changed the color of Alexandria Daddario's eyes. Or
Mm,
Alexandra Daddario. I think it's
Yeah.
Alexandria. Nope, it's
It's
Alexandra.
Alexandra. Yeah.
I suck. No, it's Alexandra Daddario. They changed the color of her eyes, which is apparently what everybody wanted.
Yeah. So they rescue Grover there. They retrieve the fleece and they trap him in his cave. And then Luke ambushes
And
ambushes
Percy.
them, and then attempts to shoot Percy with a crossbow for not handing over the fleece. But Tyson gets shot instead and falls into a roaring stream of water. I wonder where that's leading.
That's a lot of damage.
Well, that's not what I was going for, but I suppose that works. So then Luke takes the fleece and then ties the group up to a couple of poles and then starts reviving Kronos from his sarcophagus, where Percy is voted the leader, happily by two of them, begrudgingly by Clarice. And they get untied. Luke defeats Percy, but then Tyson, who survived, he hit water. Turns out he gets healed by water too.
Because he's also a son of Poseidon. That checks.
Yeah. So then Tyson shows up, and then they're hugging it out, calls each other brother, just long enough for Kronos to get revived. So he starts forming, and then Luke is like, "I am your great grandson. I am your loyal follower." Blah blah blah. Kronos picks him up, eats him. Picks up Grover, eats him too. And then what they find out is that Percy realizes his sword, which is the pencil, is the cursed blade of the prophecy, and then slices Kronos in half directly from top to bottom, and kills him and imprisons him into the sarcophagus. Luke ends up landing in Polyphemus's lair, so that's where we were talking about he might have died. If he was alive in the books after, I guess that's where they would have went with it.
Right. See, Kronos was the big bad in the books.
Mm-hmm. Kronos is kind of the big bad here. It's still kind of Luke again, though, because Luke is reviving Kronos, and then Kronos just gets sliced in half. That's really Luke again most of this movie.
I wonder where they would have gone. Because obviously they're going to title them all the same. So I wonder if the Titan's curse would have just been Percy running the wall. Because they've killed the Titan at this point. I don't really know what his curse is. Maybe his curse was indigestion from some bad Taco Bell. That's all I could really guess.
So then Annabeth gets impaled by the manticore and dies in Percy's arms, but gets resurrected by the fleece. Then Percy gives the fleece to Clarice, because it was her mission, and he's not a jerk, so he gives it to her. And
Percy
Clarice places it on the tree. Clarice places it on the tree to try to revive the tree. Well, not only did it revive the tree, it revived Talia, who is now magically aged 12 years or whatever.
I thought Talia was always older. I always thought she was the oldest of them. I thought she was Luke's age.
Well, she is, but she died when she was 5 or 6.
No, she couldn't have died when she was 5 or 6 because Luke is older. See, this is where you get screwed up when you mess with ages.
So, what happens is it's when Luke, Annabeth, and Grover are entering the camp at the same time when they're very young.
Right.
But so they're all very young, and she dies then and is part of the tree.
But she was older, is the way the story was, at least in the books.
Well, maybe, but then...
The reason she sacrificed herself was to protect the younger ones.
Okay, so let's say she's 7. Okay, let's just say she's 7.
It was more like 5 to 7 years. It would have been a big enough difference for her to have been older. It would have been enough to explain that, it wasn't a big time jump.
In the movie, they all look about the same age. I mean, they're 5 to 7.
Yeah,
so they all look about the same age, but then it's a different actor, and it's an older version of her, but she's been dead for however many years.
Okay. Yeah, I'm following.
And so she is revived by the fleece as well. And then Percy realizes that Talia is the daughter of Zeus and could be the child referred to in the prophecy about Olympus. And that is where the movie ends.
Because screw sequels.
Well, yeah, because it's clearly being set up. Larman said, and so in 2014, Lerman said that the sequel wouldn't be made. 6 days later, there's another report that he said that it could still go ahead and that the previous report was out of context. Then in 2015, Lerman said that while he finds the films fun to make, he has not heard anything about the production of a third film and expressed concern that he and his co-stars were growing too old for their parts. which is honestly fair.
Because you know why that would be? Because they were too old for their freaking parts when they got cast.
Yeah. Walker Scobell is going to be Percy.
Walker Scobell, that's the name. And he's a lot younger. But see, the thing is, Lerman is currently 30. Mm-hmm. So in 2013, he would have been 21, which is not as bad as Daddario, who is 37. Mm-hmm. So would have been 27, portraying a 15-year-old who never really looked 15. She always looked like she was in her mid-20s, even when they adjusted the way she looked to make her look more like the kid in the book. Yeah. No, not really the best move. Also, she did True Detective right around this time. I don't know if you know anything about her role in True Detective. I'm going to throw this out there because it is incredibly famous and also would have killed a sequel to a movie about a 17-year-old. Yeah, she did a nude scene in True Detective, which is not a thing you do when you're also playing a 17-year-old in what should be the next Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Like, that just will kill your chance of being in a franchise. Because it doesn't work. People go and they're like, huh, this is True Detective. Oh, hey, it's Annabeth. Like, it just doesn't work very well. It'd be like if Emma Roberts, is that who I'm thinking of? Emma Watson. If she'd done the same thing, it would have killed Harry Potter. I'm like sure of it. She's done a very good job keeping her brand very family, whereas Daddario, I think, is currently in a show about witches. So that shows the big difference. Nice. It comes full circle.
Yeah. As bad as these movies are, though, there is the Disney Plus series coming out, which is going to be very interesting because Rick Riordan is how I'm going to attempt to say it.
Riordan.
Good old Rick is the one that announced it and was like, "Yeah, me and my wife are involved in this, like, heavily."
He wrote it.
Yeah. So I bet this is going to be really good.
It'll be really good. Also, speaking of Rick. The Rick roll, yeah. There's a lot of Yvette Nicole Brown was in this, which is cool. She ran a friend of mine off of Twitter one time. But yeah, it's a movie.
Yeah,
I would say that I don't want to say I wanted these movies to keep going because I didn't. I never saw them. I'm gonna be honest with you. I knew they sucked.
Yeah, these movies are not good. I'm excited for this Disney reboot. Like, I'm gonna take the opposite approach of what I did to Harry Potter a week ago because I don't know that a Harry Potter remake TV series is a good idea because while there's some detail that was missed in the book, those movies were largely based on the book and are classics. These movies, these suck. Like,
they're not Percy Jackson.
They're not the books. They're all right movies. Suck is a little bit of a strong word to use. The second one, maybe. The first one's all right.
They're okay if you don't consider them Percy Jackson. I take the Last Jedi approach and say, this is your introduction and never see anything else. It holds up a little bit.
I wouldn't argue. I wouldn't do a Last Jedi comparison, but
it's not as good as the Last Jedi, like by any stretch. And I know you didn't like the Last Jedi. These are worse by a lot. I will say the Percy or the Harry Potter thing got announced today officially. It got a 7-season order. They're expecting it to be a decade long, and they've got a whole new cast. They're going to do a whole new cast.
Yeah. I get it. It's a cash cow for Warner Brothers. I get it. It makes sense why they would want to do it. And I get there's some things in the books that aren't in the movies, but I don't like I want to take the Daniel Radcliffe approach to this, which is these things were great, but these are in the past. These are a relic to be enjoyed and not to be touched. The danger you run into is, yes, J.K. Rowling will be involved, but
she's executive producing.
It's not going to be the same. It's just not. The
It isn't.
nostalgia and everything that's there just won't be the same because that was the first time we saw all of that go from book to movie. And that's what was
And
special about it.
it
This
was
will be it
good.
again. Yes, it was very good. There's no need to redo it unless you're just trying to get more money out of it.
Right. And it's different from Percy Jackson because Percy Jackson just isn't right. Like there
Yeah.
is no argument to be made that anybody liked these movies.
Yeah.
They're just not good. But the Harry Potter thing, I feel like they're gonna set up a reboot or a return of Radcliffe and the rest of them at some point.
Emma
Because
Watson is not returning.
that's
Emma
not
Watson No,
she
Emma Watson has said she will not return if J.K. Rowling has any part whatsoever.
right. So Rowling could not have a part in it. But where I'm going with this is Daniel Radcliffe. The last I saw that he had said is he would come back eventually. He's like, I've only been out of it for 10 years. The guys that did Star Wars, they were out of it for 30. Give me some more time and kind of, I'm not ready to go back there yet. Which is a thing that I feel like if you do a reboot series, you get the best of both worlds. If they're willing to go back at some point, I'm sure that's a cash cow. They'll go back.
Yeah, it is absolutely a cash cow. But when they had talked about the Cursed Child movie, they reached out to each of the original actors and asked if they would come back. Rupert Grint basically just said absolutely yes. Radcliffe, I think, was a lot more hesitant, if not a no. Emma Watson was she's told them she would actively protest the movie if they made it with JK.
And I get that. I do. But again, I don't know. I don't know how valid that was because all that stuff came out and is very like I don't know how true it is. I've never seen anything past like an article saying they wanted to. And I saw a couple of articles that said it was going to happen. I don't know. I don't really care. I don't think anybody is ready for it yet. I think
No one
30
wants
years,
that. Cursed Child is not a good story, and it wasn't. I don't think it was written by JK.
it was written in part by JK, but it's not canonical. It doesn't fit.
No.
Regardless, we're getting a little bit off subject. But in 30 years, JK's dead. Almost guaranteed. That sounds really crappy, but if you give Radcliffe the time he's asking for, you resolve all of your problems.
What, are you going to have Radcliffe grow a beard and come back as Dumbledore?
No, you literally do a Harry Potter sequel. You do a legacy Harry Potter sequel. You do the Top Gun Maverick of Harry Potter.
I don't know. I think it needs to be left in the past personally, but I mean, I'll watch the TV show. I just hope they do a good job with it. But to get back to what we were talking about, I'm excited for the Percy Jackson series. I'm assuming it's going to be good. I'm assuming it's going to be faithful to the book, which means it'll be good.
Right, because the books were fantastic. And I really hope if they're going to commit to doing the season per book thing, which is what they're doing, and that's awesome, that it really is. I want them to go past Percy Jackson. I want to do 5 seasons of Percy Jackson, and then I want to get all those same actors, and I want to do freaking Heroes of Olympus. And I want to get all those same actors, and I want to do freaking whatever else I want to do. And eventually, I wanted to see it make the move to movies. Like, I'd love to see some new stuff written. I think Riordan's going to release a new Percy Jackson book when the series comes out. That's what I heard, which would be cool. Like, as a fan of these characters, I want it to be good. I really do. I feel like they're going to cast Chris Pratt as older Percy, just because. But other than that, I think it'll be pretty solid. These movies, however, were pretty much not. And I don't even think there's really a reason to go about our criteria. It failed. I think we can both agree it did not adapt the books. It did not it didn't surpass them in any manner. Whereas you can argue Harry Potter missed some stuff and left you a little confused. At the very least, it didn't undo the books. The timing was a little weird and whatnot. It didn't undo them. This just, like, you can't jump from this to the book seamlessly like you could with Harry Potter.
Or from the book to the movie.
Right. Because with Harry Potter, best I understand, I've never read the books, never seen many of the movies, but there isn't anything that contradicts. Like, it's just more stuff.
There is the one hilarious thing I sent you the video of Dumbledore and the Goblet of Fire. Harry, did you rename the Goblet of Fire? Dumbledore asked calmly. Harry just renamed the Goblet of Fire.
No, but my point being, there isn't anything major that contradicts. Like, it isn't like Voldemort isn't still evil.
Yeah.
And it isn't.
I mean, the one thing that contradicts is, like, the Cursed Child, Cedric, is still alive.
But the Cursed Child doesn't count because the Cursed Child isn't a book; it's a play, and it sucked. Like it really hardcore sucked. But it's not like in Harry Potter you go through and really the hero the whole time has been Neville in the book, but in the movie it's Harry. It's not that at all. They're the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
They fit. It's like the old Star Wars books used to be. They all fit together.
Yeah.
You can kind of flow in and out without missing anything. Whereas these are just completely different. Like, I honestly don't mind the pearl collecting story. I don't.
Yeah.
But it ain't
it's just not it's not the story.
Right. So don't call it Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. Make it what they did with The Witcher, the games, not the terrible TV show. So they did all the books of The Witcher and then they made 3 games. The games are sequels. Like the first game is a sequel to all the books. And it's really well done because you can get away from the source material without getting away from the source material.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do it this way, it's not an addendum. It's just a redo and it sucked. Like you can't do both.
You could make a comparison with this and Fantastic Beasts. To go back to a Harry Potter connection of Fantastic Beasts was not a book in the way that this was, but it's sort of like you have The Witcher. This is almost like a failed version of that. Of we have like we've known these characters. We've obviously known Dumbledore. We've heard of Grindelwald. We've heard of Newt Scamander and Aberforth Dumbledore and some of the others. And so J.K. goes, okay, we don't have a book for this, but I want to go back in time and tell the story of Dumbledore and Grindelwald. And so how does that happen? Whether or not she had it mapped out, she would have had to if she didn't. And then we get the stories for the first time in the movies. And the first one was all right. The second one was not as good. And the third one was even worse.
And those are never going to be finished. So we're never going to know how it ends.
I mean, we know how it ends. We know that Dumbledore defeats Grindelwald in a duel, that Grindelwald ends up in a prison basically for the rest of his life, and that Dumbledore gets the Elder Wand. We know how the duel ends, but it would have been great to have seen that duel take place. But
to my point, those are addendums, but they're not addendums to the source material.
Yeah.
I'm now very concerned because that's a cool story.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem I have with this new Harry Potter is it's not different. Like we know it's not going to be different. So do those apply? Are those canonical, or are we going to get another retelling of a movie nobody wanted?
Yeah. I mean, the question is going to be, what's going to be canon? Is canon going to be these new movies and those old movies are no longer canon? Or are they both going to be canon? You can't really do that.
Well,
you say these aren't canon.
If you weaved it right, you could treat the new TV show as the old books, and they could just not contradict. But if you do that, what's the point?
Yeah, I think we've gotten a bit off track here. We've been going for a little over 15 minutes. I think it's about time to wrap up.
I agree, but I'm honestly kind of enjoying this, and I would like to see it to its natural fulfillment, and we're almost there. I want to say one more thing. Rowling should have written more books. That's all there is. If you write more Fantastic Beasts books, if the movies flop, you can reboot them when you do the TV show.
Yeah.
But like if you don't...
If Fantastic Beasts were an actual book series that was written out and then adapted, I think that would have been better.
Yeah. Because now it's dead. It's gone. Nobody ever knows how it ends. I mean, you know how it ends, but you don't. Like you don't
know exactly how you get there. Yeah.
Right. So we missed 4 and 5, whereas it's like Game of Thrones. The TV show outpaced the books. And when that happened, it sucked. Because there was nothing. And you're just like, well, this is awful. Yeah. So
criteria, did this movie do what it set out to do? No. Pass or fail?
Fail.
I think it's right on that line.
It's a fail.
Yeah.
Honestly, to me, it's just a fail. It didn't do anything. It sucked. It was not what it meant to be.
Yeah.
I mean, they're rewatchable. If you're willing to overlook that sometimes the gods are as big as buildings and other times they're as small as people. If you're willing to overlook a lot of these minor details, you can rewatch it. I'd rather pull my hair out, but you can rewatch it. Like they're not worth anything. You don't walk away feeling like you saw something. Like if you're a fan, you feel bad about it. If you're not a fan, you feel out of the loop.
Yeah.
They're just not worth your time. They're really not. And I'm very sad to say that. So to answer our question we asked in the script or in the title, I think it's a reboot waiting to happen. I really do.
Absolutely.
It's gonna be fantastic, hopefully. And you know what? We might cover that on our other show when it finally comes out. Peep the new hat. Much talk about nothing. We might do that. Anyway, if you've enjoyed our tirade about things, you can support us on Patreon. Patreon.com/theculturednerd. There are different tiers for all of the different shows. And yeah, you can throw your money at the screen. You can help keep the lights on. You can help buy me and Grant some coffee so we can stay awake through these bad movies, or these old movies, or these old bad movies. This week, this week we're doing something a little different. Batman Beyond Year One. If you scan this QR code, that'll take you, I believe, to their Kickstarter link, which is right here. They're doing a fan film. Looks really cool. I think Taylor just interviewed the director on this YouTube channel, so you can go check that out. Yeah, if you want to support that, if you're interested in Batman Beyond's pretty cool. It's completely unrelated to Percy Jackson, but it's pretty cool. You can do that by just going to that link and, again, throwing your money at the screen. As always, I've been your host, Grant Ingram.
And I've been your co-host, Grant Skill, and thank you to each of our Patreon supporters and Jose and Taylor
for the logo and intro.
Yes.
And thank you, the viewer, the fan, if you will. Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed this, leave a like, subscribe. That really does help us out. YouTube's algorithm's weird, but that really does help. If you like The Cultured Nerd and are more interested in The Cultured Nerd, you can scan this little QR code here on the left, and that'll take you to our channels, our websites, all of that. There's cool stuff. And if you're interested in more of us, me and Grant, the men with the men in hats, if you will, you can scan this QR code on the right and go listen and watch our stuff. We have an interview we're hopefully doing tomorrow with Taylor Cahill, who played Wonder Woman in this new Shazam. She was physically on set, which is really cool. Looking forward to talking to her. Hopefully that happens tomorrow. And then next week we talk with Philip Shabazz, who played the lead character in the first Assassin's Creed game, if you're interested in that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and be sure to tune in next week where we talk about Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, directed by Tim Burton. I believe it came out about 2017. Again, thank you so much, and we will see you next